thinking I'm in? Nah, you probably slow me down, Claude. You know, you gonna be out there worrying about your silverware being clean and all that shit. You know, you want them soft motherfuckers.
What you say?
I said you soft, so what? What you gonna do? What?
Don't no man call me soft. I hate that, all
All
right?
right, wait, let me slow you down, cause I'm a man. I called you soft, first of all. Now, I don't like you swelling all up and all. What's all this swell up shit? What's that about? What you taking in all this air for, Claude? What you feeling, huh? What's on your mind, huh? What, you gonna put your chin up? Huh? That means something to me? Cause I said soft? Cause I said soft, so what? I spell it. S-O-F capital T. Soft. Huh? How you like that? What you gonna do, Claude? What you gonna do, huh?
Oh. Time to cut work. That's right. That's right.
Hey, what it do? Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. This is your boy MagMongoSlade, and today we're going to do the final installment of the Soft Chronicles, because really there is nobody higher in the WWE food chain than Roman Reigns. And so when Roman Reigns says it, we're going to leave it at that. So this is going to be like the 3rd or 4th video I've done on the concept of Undertaker calling people soft. This is the last one, I promise. I'm not doing it again unless, somebody throws a punch. So we're going to go into the audio. I got the audio. It's about 4 minutes of Roman talking and explaining what he thinks. And then we're going to come back and we're going to discuss what he had to say. So strap in and let's get going.
I was doing a little research here, and it seems like there's a big hullabaloo going on right now because The Undertaker, I guess, went on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I guess Goldberg somewhere else. They've come out to say that today's WWE superstars are soft. So I wanted to give you a chance to respond to that claim.
We do the same job. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like the bumps got any worse or any better. And it's funny because you hear the old timers, they'll be like, and I don't consider Undertaker and Goldberg old timers. That my father, their generation, the golden era, the 70s. That's a different generation, I would think. But you always hear them like, a drop kick was a finish back in my time. So that means you didn't quite, a drop kick, that's like the second move you see in a wrestling match nowadays. So we're doing a lot more. And, sometimes I think we're a lot more physical. And because the audience has seen so much more, we have to do a little more in order to pique their interest, in order to show them a little something different. So, what we call a false finish, a finisher that people, a pin that people believe will be the final, move of the match. We go through those like it's, Steamboat Savage, like that. You'll see that on a Smackdown. You'll see, 15 false finishes on a Smackdown. So it's strange because, I don't know. I think he was just. I really feel like he misspoke because Mark is a really good guy. He's very knowledgeable. He obviously has a ton of respect for the business. Goldberg is just Goldberg. Who cares?
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, somebody's got to. But, he's talking about guns and knives in a locker room. Like, come on. You guys traveled just like we did. Did you really get that stuff through the security? TSA is just letting everything happen back then. I don't agree with it. I'm not I choose to play video games sometimes on my own time. I don't do it at work. And as you can see, and some of my characters based around it, I've always been one that networked and politicked and tried to, communicate and work while I'm at work. Some guys choose to stay in the locker room, and for guys like the New Day, who are just uberly talented, who just have it, and when it comes time to put it on screen, they just bang, they go. They can get away with that, but I hope the younger guys that are in the locker room, don't fall into that, because we're not all the same. I have to put my whole mind into work as I come to work on a Friday, all the way, sometimes my wife has to tell me, shut it off, like, stop, like, just be at home, be present, because I can't turn it off sometimes. Yeah. And I think to be at the highest level of anything, you have to be borderline obsessive. So I think, I don't always think there's room for video games in the locker room, but when we're running our regular touring system and it's a live event and there's nowhere to go, you done got kicked out of the hotel because you couldn't get the late checkout. You already hit the gym, you already picked up your food, and you're sitting, in the locker room. I'd rather my guys, play video games than be breaking into a bag of some sort. You know what I'm saying? So, it's a different time, and I think we're smarter, and I think you're going to see that all, from the financial side of it, how we save our money, how we prepare for the future, having afterlife after the business when we can't fall down anymore, all the way to our actual health. So, I think it was just like a retired guy trying to sound gangster.
All right, so having listened to Roman, I get what I think he went a very diplomatic route with it. He was very dismissive of Goldberg because everyone is it now, but I think he says he think Undertaker misspoke. Okay, fine. One thing that I think I kind of want to correct them on is like when he was talking about security was just letting you get away with anything. I think that he is thinking about the business in his time. Back in the day when Undertaker and Kevin Nash and all those guys were talking about, they're talking about times when you could just hop in a car and drive to the next town. They didn't really get in an airplane, right? So there wasn't a lot of that, the whole guys, there wasn't a lot of security back in those days. Like you can go watch some of the old territories. You will literally see in some territories that there is no barricades between the wrestlers and the fans. Like if you watch Mid-South, there was nothing between the wrestler and the fan. And in World Class, there was like a piece of string that just went around. That was the separation between you and the fans. People could grab you and get at you if they wanted to in those territories. And since the territory was all in driving distance, you could drive, from Houston to Dallas, from Dallas to Tulsa. It'd probably take you forever, but you drive there. The idea of just hopping in an airplane, there wasn't really a lot of that. But I do like with his response when he said about the video games. About, it's something to pass the time that if you have an either or, he would rather have his guys playing video games, which I think everybody agrees with. But I think that he really didn't sound too offended. He basically just said we do the same thing, except we have to do a little bit more. I think in another part of the video, I didn't really clip that part out, but he talked about how in the PG era it's actually harder. It's harder to do than the Attitude Era because they can't do simple things like smoking cigarettes or drinking beer or certain they can't go ultraviolet and stuff like that. They have to do things at a lot more of they have a lot more limitations, and that's also true. And I think I've heard John Cena say that. It's like it's harder to be a wrestler in the PG era now because there's so many limitations. There's so many corporate sponsorships and special interests and all this sort of things that have latched on to the company, or to WWE. So I absolutely like what Roman said, and I think that what he said was better than what Drew said, even though Drew was kind of like they had some similarities in their content. Because Drew basically said that the physicality is more now than it used to be. So I don't have a problem with what Roman said. Roman said it. I didn't hear any disrespect. I heard a little bit of dismissal for Goldberg, but I didn't hear any disrespect. I might also fold this in here because it also popped up. Mick Foley says that he believes that the wrestlers are today just as tough as they were in his time. Foley is the nicest guy in the world. He's not going to diss the locker room. He's not going to do that. But also, Devon Dudley has said that he feels like the younger wrestlers are more dismissive and more rude to the older guys than they used to be. And that's also gotten a lot of people upset. And I think that, he's in the locker room. I think Devon actually works there. So he knows what's going on. And I said it before in the previous video, there is a growing divide, particularly in that locker room, where there are people kind of not getting along with the older generation. And maybe it's due to the criticisms that, you do get some of that back in my day type of stuff. So I'm pretty sure people don't want to hear that. So I get why, you may have an attitude about that. But we've read, numerous pieces now from guys who are in their, late 20s, early 30s, basically saying like, where we come second fiddle to part timers, and that should be my spot, and that sort of attitude, having that sort of attitude. So something needs to be done, and I think Roman's the kind of guy that can get it fixed. He has the ability to straighten this thing out. Like I said, there's only 4 top guys. There's Roman, there's Drew, there's Seth, and there's Randy. Seth just had a baby, so he's probably not dealing with this shit right now. I doubt Randy gives a fuck. So we're dealing with Drew and Roman, and they both have said what they had to say. Now, unless somebody else comes out of the woodwork, maybe if Triple H says something or Shawn Michaels or something like that, I'll make another video. But for me, this is it. I can't keep milking this cow. I've said the same thing 100 times. The territory days were tough. This stuff is documented. I've seen somebody in the comment section of one of my videos said like, oh, a lot of this stuff was made up. I was like, yeah, maybe some of it, until, these guys have been telling consistent stories for 30 years though. And it's likely that somebody has, but you also have straight up documentation of houses being firebombed. Like, these people don't put this stuff, like, we're not talking about, old wrestlers sitting and doing a shoot interview and he could be embellishing the story. We're talking about actual researchers, like Tim Hornbaker has sat down and looked up this stuff in the newspaper. Like, this stuff is it's not bullshit, Like, it's easy to say, like, some old wrestler is sitting down exaggerating, because they all do, But, no. Some of the historians, they stick, a little too close to the rib. And a lot of that stuff is documented. A lot of it is very documented. They like these guys, like a Hornbaker, he would have the memos that the promoters would send one another. And these types of stuff, these types of things, blackballing people, threatening guys, this stuff is not an exaggeration. Please believe. And the stories of guys who, like, Terry Funk got stabbed. Like, are you telling me Terry Funk exaggerated saying that he didn't get stabbed? Like, these stories are real, of stories of riots in the stands and stuff like that. That stuff was dangerous. It is not bullshit. And trust me, I have a pretty good bullshit meter. It wasn't bullshit. This stuff is documented. You can look it up. You can look up some of this craziness, man. But I think that I like that Roman talked about, his dad is older than Undertaker, so he says, like, he considers them to be the old timers. He says Undertaker is going to be a little bit more modern, and that's true. I think that Undertaker's started in like late 80s, so it was, but he still had the territory experience. Same thing with Kevin Nash, even though those guys were young in the early to mid 90s, but they broke in the territory era, right at the tail end of it. But it was the territory times, back when Harley Race was active, back when Bruiser Brody was alive. Like, a lot of these people never even knew, like, Bruiser Brody was alive. Like, the stories of guys, man, some of this stuff might be embellished, but a lot of it isn't. Like, a lot of that stuff isn't embellished, and then there's no reason to make it up. Like, why would superstar Bill Dundee make up a story about getting jumped by the Poffos and having to pull a gun on him? And then say, like, oh, he was goofy, he was spaced out on drugs or whatever. Like, why would he need to make that up? Why Randy Savage of all people? Like, you have to sit down and think about this. And then it makes sense when you realize they was all in Memphis and shit together. It makes sense. Why would they make it up? To sound tough. Like, he didn't want to sound tough. If you listen to the shoot interview when he was talking about it, he didn't want to talk about it. And they dropped the charges. So he thought it was a dead deal. And then that's not even the first and only story of Randy Savage getting into fights with other people. He got into a fight with, like, Hawk from the Legion of Doom at a concert. Savage was nuts. Like, them was the boys back then, man. They was all on drugs, acting stupid. Gino Hernandez got found dead somewhere. He was probably moving coke in the locker rooms. It was crazy. It was crazy. Like, this stuff is not an exaggeration. I think that people don't believe it because so much in wrestling is bullshit. But it is not. I've seen some of the news clippings. I've seen stories of wrestlers trying to kill other wrestlers. That people have basically said it, trying to kill guys in the ring. I've seen when guys actually did get away with killing somebody in the ring. This stuff is nuts, you know, and that's the wrestling business. But that's it. All right, that's the last word. I'm done. Thank you guys for listening. Spread the good word of 3 Count Commentaries by using the hashtag 3 Count Commentaries. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel, send me money, a shawarma on me. Thank you for the shawarma to V Graham, my dude. I appreciated that. And it was dope. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you guys later.